The reviews are in, and we're going to tell you what they are. He's Todd Vandenberg. I'm Rob Steele, and I was looking forward to having a very nice, all good news show because we've got lots of stuff to get through, and a lot of it was good. Until Friday night, when everything got a little bit weird, Marvel decided to change the name of the Eternals movie. They dropped the word "the" from the movie title. It is now just Eternals. Actually, I'm kidding. That is a thing. It did happen. That's not the bad news, though.
That is a thing.
Basically, it started. I was getting ready for bed, right, and my daughter walked in with staring at her cell phone. I'm not sure why I bother saying that part because she's a teenager. It's more of an appendage than an appliance at this point.
Right.
So you can kind of assume there is a cell phone attached. She said, "Where do I know the name Chadwick Boseman?" I said, "Well, he's Black Panther. That's probably where you know him from." She goes, "He died." And my first thought, now listen to this through before you go, "Oh, you're a horrible person." My first thought was, "Oh, good. Now we know what tonight's internet conspiracy theory is, because there's no way that could have happened." And so I pick up my phone and the Associated Press reports, and I went, "Oh, damn, it's real."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this is such a bizarre story. It turns out that he had been fighting colorectal cancer for at least 4 years, was diagnosed with it 4 years ago, and was stage 3 then. So this guy is performing some iconic roles while fighting cancer, and it's like, how do you pull off playing Black Panther? It's crazy how he was able to not only physically do that, but mentally and emotionally do that. I mean, most people, when they're fighting cancer, and I've known a few, it's difficult to get through the day, and this guy goes out and does this level of work. Like Rob said, I was just, oh, this is going to be a cool show. This will be a lot of fun. And it will be when we get there. But, I mean, I've cried 3 times about this. And he wasn't my favorite actor or anything. He's a great actor. But I stayed up late to watch one of his other films other than Black Panther, because everyone is talking about Black Panther, and we will too, because it's a terrific film. But I mean, picture what this guy played. Jackie Robinson, one of the most important figures in American history. And if you don't know the battle for civil rights, then you're overlooking that man. He played James Brown. I wouldn't say he's one of the most important figures in American history, but he's one of the most important entertainers in the history of this country and worldwide. Absolutely, no doubt about it. There's a reason they call him the godfather of soul and funk. Thurgood Marshall, first Black Supreme Court justice. This guy played absolutely iconic roles and played them iconically. And then put Black Panther on top of that.
Who actually was also kind of an iconic role.
Absolutely. The movie's very meaningful, everybody. But if you're a person of color, that movie was a game changer. It absolutely was a game changer. And in no small part because of Chadwick Boseman. I mean, you read the comments from people who worked with him, and you see the word devastating over and over and over. And it is.
Yeah.
It really is.
I haven't done this yet, but I was thinking back to Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
And with all the special effects and everything that went on, I do not recall, and I'm just thinking aloud, and I could be absolutely wrong on this, and it wouldn't bother me at all if I was. I'm wondering if Chadwick Boseman was actually even there for that, because I don't recall Black Panther having any lines, and I'm thinking he
had lines.
He did? Okay.
Yeah, he had some lines.
Like I didn't remember, and I haven't looked yet.
And there were action-heavy scenes with him, of course, and a lot of those are CGI, because a lot of them had to be CGI in Black Panther too, just because there aren't a lot of people who can jump 30 feet. But yeah, That is a good question. How much of that was? I'm thinking he was there for all of it because no one has come forward and said we knew what he was going through while filming. I don't think anybody knew what he was going through while he was filming, or maybe they're being respectful, which is a lovely thing to do, and not saying what he was going through. But regardless of whether we knew it or not, I mean, my God, to make performances like he did, give us performances like he did, is just amazing. Just amazing. I'm thirsty all of a sudden.
What is, I'm not meaning to belittle him. I'm actually, and this is something that hit me last night. Where do you go with the Black Panther movies from here?
Well, I thought about that too. I mean,
I like your idea that you texted me.
We talk about movies, and there are two ways they can go, and I think either one is really good. I think they can go with Michael B. Jordan because he was coming back anyway in Black Panther 2. And he's resurrected. And if he's resurrected, he's reformed and he sees the errors of his ways. He's the new Panther, which would give, I mean, that's a terrific character. He's a terrific actor. That would give an awesome arc. And what a backstory that character would have, that Black Panther fights for justice. And he's coming from a place where he was kind of an embodiment of rage against injustice and not handling it correctly. So that would be terrific. I also thought Danai Gurira have a female Black Panther because she certainly has the physical ability. For those who may not remember, Michonne in The Walking Dead. And man, she has presence. She has every bit of screen presence as any actor they've had. So I would be thrilled with either one.
I think that if you go with your first option, you can do that in Black Panther 2. Right. But if it ends up being Okoye, tell me I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
If they turn her into Black Panther, which I actually see being the more logical, considering how she was in charge of Wakanda.
Yeah, I do too.
Black Panther was dusted. I don't think you can do that in Black Panther 2. You have to do that somewhere else and continue it in Black Panther 2.
They have, and again, the big story is obviously the death of Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying
Marvel is Black Panther made $1.2 billion. They're not going to just say, well, in honor of Chadwick Boseman, we're not going to make Black Panther 2. Because it's a business, and we talk about that aspect of movies as well. So they're not going to just abandon it. So, but they can certainly honor him. So it'd be interesting to see how they go with it. But I would be upset if they don't go down one of those two avenues. And honestly, they could do both, over time. But I would be. It makes zero sense to do anything but that. Makes zero sense. So,
let's make the show a bit happier.
Yes, please.
Last weekend was the DC Fandom, which was kind of like Comic-Con, only all online, and you got to watch interviews with all the people in the upcoming movies and talking about the books and everything. And I noticed that for DC Fandom, trending in Georgia, the state where I live, was Marvel. Because apparently Georgians don't know the difference. So yeah, getting a lot of tweets in Georgia where people were saying things like, I love the look of this new Superman movie, #Marvel. You twits. Do you not realize that you're watching something literally called DC Fandom? And what the hell? Anyway, we got a lot of interesting movie news out of this.
We did.
And some good trailers and some other stuff, which is kind of weird.
Yes.
A Static Shock movie is on its way.
That's interesting. I hadn't heard about that.
I was not expecting. Apparently, and apparently I've been underrating Static, the character, not the noise you're sometimes. Yeah, that stuff.
Yeah.
The I didn't realize he was that popular a character. I knew he had a TV show, but
right.
I did not realize. But there's no footage yet. There's no casting or anything. Just hey, it's on its way, and you go, okay, good. We did get a new Wonder Woman trailer.
We did,
which I thought looked good. I did not
Right.
catch Max Lord's name in it, and he's the big bad for the movie. We did get to see Cheetah, though.
We did.
What did you think of how Cheetah looked in this?
I really like that we saw Cheetah in various forms, stages. I like the fact that they did that. I thought the end stage Cheetah looked really good. I'm not sure that I'm completely down with Cheetah as like the villain. I know Max Lord is the arch villain, but still, because I never really cared for the character that much. But I really like the casting, and I really like the way the character looks in this, the way they're presenting it. So, and the rest of it with Wonder Woman and someone who comes back, really interesting. I really like the trailer. The trailer, again, makes me want to see the movie, which I already did, but...
As opposed to the Snyder Cut. We got a trailer for the Snyder, and some news about the Snyder Cut that doesn't make a damn bit of sense to me. But I'll start with this. Most of it looks, this is the important word, looks really good.
Agreed.
Except Darkseid.
Agreed. Darkseid looks like a placeholder, I hope, for what the finished effects will be. And if that's the case, why would you release it? Or why would you not blare? This is just why would you make it more apparent that, I would have shown whoever's doing the mocap, and shown the actor with the dotted suit instead of that. Because that looks like it's from a bad 90s video game. Really?
He's shirtless. I have gone back to read a lot of the Jack Kirby New God stuff where Darkseid came from.
Yeah,
I've never seen him. I don't recall seeing him shirtless.
I don't either, ever. For one thing, and without it doesn't look that much like Darkseid. Honestly, we know it's Darkseid, and even if it's some minion, which they decided to, for some reason, we'll focus on this odd character, which isn't Darkseid, which would be stupid. It still looks like crap.
Yeah.
To me, I liked a lot of the scenes they showed. There's a lot of focus on Superman in his black suit. Like, this is world breaking. It's like, okay, that's cool. But if all you're going to give us is a black suit Superman and a shitty looking Darkseid, you should have kept it, dude. Hopefully it's a placekeeper. A lot of it does look good. I appreciate that a lot of it is, apparently it's like 75% different footage for the one we've seen, which makes sense because they had a ton of stuff to work with, and they spent $170 million on it. Apparently, about 5 of that on Darkseid.
Not even. By 5, he doesn't mean 5 million. He means $5.
Yeah, exactly. $5. They're doing some interesting stuff with it, though.
It looked great, but they ran the Hallelujah chorus over it.
Thank you.
Which is, quite frankly, and if you read my blog, you know this, quite possibly the worst song ever recorded.
Well,
because Hallelujah is supposed to be a happy, uplifting thing, and if this song sounds, it doesn't matter who's singing it, it always sounds like Eeyore overdosing on heroin.
Well,
it's not a happy song. What the hell?
I think it's a great song because it turns the concept on its head. However, I think it's terribly inappropriate for this trailer. And not that it's inappropriate for a movie, but to me, it's like, hallelujah, the Snyder Cut is coming. That's what it smacks of. And it's like, dude, you screwed the pooch with Man of Steel, which frankly isn't a very good movie. Batman v Superman is horrifically terrible.
It had a couple moments, but
yeah,
it's not
two moments, which is awesome. he's done some really good movies. I love Watchmen. Most people don't like Watchmen. I'm talking about the movie, not the HBO series. I think that's an excellent movie. I love 300. Some people hate that. The Day of the Dead remake, excellent stuff. But he also did Sucker Punch. He's extremely uneven. So, to have to be singing Hallelujah over this is like, dude, that just sucks. There are plenty of funeral dirges he could have played over this because it's a dirge for the end of the world and blah blah blah, and here comes the Justice League to save us, and there's Superman. Hey, I get it, but it smacks of thank God I'm back. It is like that's a horrible, horrible freaking choice. Sucks.
Well, I'll make it worse. The movie is not being released as a movie. It's being released as 4 one-hour episodes.
Correct.
Per week.
And then you can watch it as a movie after that.
Who thought that was a good idea?
I'm actually okay with it because how many people are going to watch a 4-hour movie? And I know
Lord of the Rings every so often.
Exactly, every so often. Well, here's the thing, too, is it's on HBO Max. They don't want people to sign up for HBO Max, watch it, and then cancel. This way, you got to have it So, I get that. I get what they're doing, but, and I'm fine with it because it is pretty long. I think it's cool that it's 4 hours because it's a long story that way. So apparently we're getting Justice League and his sequel all in one, is what it sounds like to me, which is cool. I'm interested to see it. God, I hope they spend about another $30 million making Darkseid look somewhat realistic, because that's awful. I mean, I just about would rather have a guy in a rubber suit because that just looks horrific. It is so bad. It pulls you out of the movie.
Yeah, let's flip it a bit. Problem. They also released a trailer for The Batman. That looked good. It sounded good. And I want this a hell of a lot sooner than I want the Justice League. I want this like now sooner.
Right.
Because this looks like a Batman book.
It does.
Finally.
And of course it's based on, I'm sure it's kind of loosely based on The Long Halloween, because you ain't got time to make that into a movie. But it all looks excellent. Absolutely looks excellent. I like the take on, that this is basically this year 2 of Batman.
Right.
I like the fact that the Riddler doesn't look like the Riddler, at least in the scenes we've seen him. Nothing like what we've seen of the Riddler before. So Batman looks like Batman. Yeah, he's got a different look, all the rest of it. But he's still definitely
He looks
Batman.
younger because he is. Hello.
Yeah. It looks really, really good. I didn't get enough of a vibe of Batman being a detective, but I'm not sure how good a trailer that would make.
Yeah,
so
I don't think you can.
I'm fine with that.
So
well, he can, but I mean, it's not going to be too exciting to watch him like looking at something and jotting down notes and probably his notebook instead of the Bat computer, because he probably doesn't even have that yet. So yeah, he's got the Bat book. So the trailer looks really good. Everything, the world looks good, all of it. So thank goodness they released something. So that's 2. Wonder Woman 1984 looked good. The Batman looks really good.
The Snyder Cut looks kind of... Anyway.
It looks promising. It's just, if they finish it, it could be really good. We'll see.
One of the things we've actually, I think, always liked about DC is their animated stuff. And so we got the schedule for next year's animated movies, which starts off with Batman, Soul of the Dragon, which includes the characters Richard Dragon, Bronze Tiger, and Lady Shiva. So that's cool.
Very, very awesome.
We get a Justice Society movie, which predates the Justice League, which includes the original Green Lantern and Flash, with Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Dr. Fate, Sandman, Wildcat, Hourman, and the original Starman.
Yay. Very, very good, because I love that book.
And then we get 2 more Batman films where they're doing The Long Halloween as parts 1 and 2.
Which is fantastic, because that's one of the best Batman stories ever. Which is odd that they're doing it now when the theatrical movie is kind of based on the same story. So, oops. Interesting timing. But yeah, really excited to see The Long Halloween.
But actually, this year, they weren't done yet because this week they came out with Superman, Man of Tomorrow, which is the first animated feature they've done since closing off their New 52 storyline in the animated series with, what was it, Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, which was good.
It was.
So is this the first of the new animated series or a translation of one of the books? And the answer is I'm not entirely sure. I kind of hope it is a good start because this particular story is not based on the Superman Man of Tomorrow book. It's based ever so loosely, I'll go with inspired by Superman Year One, which is kind of like Batman Year One, only with Superman. And it's not like the Frank Miller books Superman Year One, which would have been very cool. But they took the Superman origin story and it gets a revamp, which is, an update. There's just a few minor twists to it. Doesn't go to work for the Daily Planet because it's a big metropolitan newspaper, which means it has chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry in it. He goes to it's more of a media thing. I'm glad someone's going to get that, and so there you go. There's a few other things. He knows he's an alien, but he doesn't find out he's from Krypton until he encounters Lobo. He does not find out his name is Kal-El from the computer that came with his spaceship because he can't get into it, which is a thing that makes absolute sense. How would an infant know how to instinctively get into a computer? He finds out from the Martian Manhunter, which, it sounds kind of weird, but it does work with the story.
That totally works.
Now, as far as the story goes, is Lex Luthor the big bad guy? Not really, but he is in it, voiced by Zachary Quinto. So there's a little bit more Mr. Spock to Luthor than we've been getting, and I think that works.
I really like that they've recast, because at some point you kind of have to.
You kind of have to.
And especially this is a new DC universe, basically, is what they're saying. Well, it makes sense that their voices are different. So I like that Lobo's in it. I really love that Martian Manhunter's in it.
Well, actually, I think you'll love this too. There are some parallels made between Luthor, who gets sentenced to prison early on in the movie, and some orange twat who's on our own planet. So, what? Social commentary in a comic book? Yeah, that could happen. I was a little worried about this movie because of the New 52 storyline, and I really liked how they did the animated versions of it, and how they were fun but dark. Right. And with this new style of animation and art and everything, I was worried that it was going to be too light and fluffy because the trailer kind of made it look like that. But you know what? It's lighter in that you can see better, but it's not light and fluffy. It's still fun and dark.
It's got Parasite in it, so it ain't going to be too light.
Oh, you blew the thing. I wasn't going to say who the bad guy was.
I blew it. I don't care.
It really is. It's kind of a spoiler, so don't listen to Todd.
Well, except that they show the character on
Well, you can't really tell who he is, though, because he doesn't look like Parasite in a form that I've seen him before.
I immediately thought, oh, that's who that is. When I saw the still photo promoting the movie, it's like they should have put something else.
He kind of looks like he could. He also kind of looked like Martian Manhunter. So I was thinking they might have brought in another Martian. Anyway.
Edit this part out.
I was going to say it really was. It's not the best animated movie in the DC lineup, but it's a lot better than the Batman Harley Quinn movie.
Ugh. What do you think about the style?
It was different, but I kind of liked it.
I do, and I haven't seen the movie. I'm just talking about the trailer. I like that. I like that it's a different style. It's still very similar in that it's not old school Disney animation or hand drawn Miyazaki at all. It's still very cost effective styling. So it's stylized, but it's less. It doesn't have quite the hard, sharp edges of what we've seen. It's a little bit more naturalistic, I think. And like you said, it's brighter from what we've seen for quite a while, too. I like it. I like it's a change. I'm sorry?
It's a Superman movie, so it kind of has
to be
bright than, Batman. Batman's always been, ooh, I can't see.
But it does seem to, I mean, literally has less hard edges, as in literally. So I like the fact that it's a new universe. So we've got new voices, we've got a new look. It's still definitely part of the family, but it definitely looks different from what they've done before. So I think that's a really good choice.
It's currently available streaming from Google Play or Amazon Video, but it's $20. Yeah, okay, $19.99, right. Whatever. Anyway. So I'm actually going to suggest to hold off until the DVD comes out later in September because it'll be cheaper.
September 8th, you can also rent it. So there you go.
See, there you go. Something else that came out this week that's available for streaming, and I was really not sure what to make of this movie. Bill and Ted Face the Music. Yeah, we watch movies, so you don't have to. No, it's not that bad. As a matter of fact, it's one of the best films of the year by default because there isn't a whole lot else. Basically, the storyline is that the time-space continuum is collapsing because Bill and Ted haven't written the song that's supposed to unite the world and so on and so forth. Okay, fine. So Bill and Ted go to the future to steal the song from themselves where they encounter evil versions of themselves. I did like the version of Bill and Ted that had taken over Dave Grohl's house. And pretend that's a bit of a spoiler, but not much. Oh, Dave Grohl does have a cameo of, what the hell are you guys doing in my house? Oh, boy. And that's the extent of his cameo. Meanwhile, more of our heroes, really, in this are Billy and Thea, the daughters of Bill and Ted, who go off and recruit another band to play the great song that they're supposed to have. Now, Billy and Thea are kind of, in my head, very meh characters. But some of the guys they get, Louis Armstrong, played by Jeremiah Kraft, and Jimi Hendrix, played by Desmond Still. If they make another biopic of either of these guys, they got them nailed.
Awesome. Works. That's awesome.
They went back and got Mozart, and I would have loved to have seen Tom Hulce do it.
That's immediately, of course, what I thought. Tom Hulce is
to my knowledge, Tom Hulce was not in the movie. Although, weirdly, I did notice in the credits that Missy, Bill's stepmom, is in the movie somewhere. Do not recall seeing her.
Interesting.
There's a lot of historical figures that show up. Like Harriet Tubman was apparently in it somewhere, and I guess I blinked. I apologize. I did not mean to miss her.
You sap.
Does that mean I have to do the rest of this in Spanish? Anyway,
yes, it does.
I took French. Anyway, the whole thing it's a terribly silly movie. It's, but at the same time, it's optimistic. There's a lot of hope woven into the movie of, yes, we can do this if we do it the right way. We need to come together and work together on things. So, having something like that, especially now, I think is a great idea. So yes, I was hesitant about should a movie like this be released? Yeah, actually it should, because it gives you the idea that we can work together to do things, maybe not necessarily as goofily as they do it in this. I guess really is it worth watching? Sure, why not? Go ahead. It'll kill an hour and a half. It's not a spectacular movie, but it's fun.
I'm very happy to hear that. So my big question about this is, how is Alex Winter? And seriously, my big question is, how is Alex Winter?
Exactly the same as we left him.
That's awesome. That's awesome, because that was we know Keanu Reeves can act. I mean,
well, Keanu is actually the one that seemed a bit off.
Interesting.
He wasn't as, and now in my head, I've got them switched. Bill S. Preston, Esquire, is not Keanu. Ted seemed a bit off. He seemed a bit, every so often you saw a flicker of, there's John Wick in their eyes. Something like that. And you kind of go, really? All right.
Alex probably hasn't played anything since Bill and Ted. I think he's been behind the scenes for those who don't
Yeah.
know. He's still been in the industry all this time. He just hasn't been in front of the camera nearly as much as Keanu.
And I will save some
That's
people.
cool.
This is going to come up because some people don't. We'll look at the credits and go, hang on a minute. One of the daughters is played by Samara Weaving. Is she related to Hugo? The answer is yes. She's his niece.
She is.
I looked that up because I went, hang on a minute. Is she related to Hugo? Yep. So I thought I'd pass that along. But there's a lot of 80s references. There's even because they go into the future. And I found out later that I had misinterpreted a line, and maybe you can misinterpret it with me and have fun with it. Hey, Bill, here's the song. It's in MP46 format. That's what I heard. And I went, wow. Okay.
That's awesome.
But, you can mishear that line too. Apparently that's not actually what's said, but that's what I heard. And maybe you'll hear it too. Have fun with it. There's a lot of 80s fluff. Unlike the movies you watched this week, which are 80s, but I don't know that I would call them fluffy.
They're not fluffy at all. They are, well, maybe fluffy in the sense that the star typically has a fluffy little dog with him, although his dog passed a couple of years ago. Not sure if he has a dog.
It was in the 80s.
Well, different dog.
Oh.
He wasn't hanging out with a dog back then. He hung out with some interesting people. I'm talking about the actor Mickey Rourke, who was as hot as you could get back in the 80s. And some people felt like that way too, other than it's just as far as his movies. So I'm going to talk about a couple movies that he starred in the mid to late 80s. I'm going to talk about the second one first, because this is the one that people don't know about nearly as much. It's called Johnny Handsome. So he came out in the early 80s in Diner, and Diner launched a lot of careers, but he just like exploded off the screen in Diner. And after that, just hit after hit after hit. Johnny Handsome kind of stopped that role for him, which is unfortunate because it's a really good film. Johnny Handsome is a crime thriller. He is a two-bit hood who is quite smart, though. So he's one of these guys who plans the jobs. He hooks up with a friend of his, connects him to a couple other people who are going to help him on this robbery. He's betrayed in the robbery. His friend is killed. He's caught, he goes to jail, and he's plotting how to get his revenge against these people. And he finally gets his revenge. But this thing has a couple of very interesting twists. First, he has a severe facial deformity. If you've ever seen the movie Mask, that's what I'm talking about. Wow. So he was born with this genetic anomaly. So when you see Mickey Rourke, he is not handsome. It is a cruel nickname, because that's his nickname in the film, is Johnny Handsome, because he is not quite handsome because he's got severe facial deformities, his cheekbones, his forehead, all the rest of it. Has a cleft palate. Probably that's part of what hurt the box office, is because you don't see Mickey Rourke as in what he normally looks like for at least half an hour into the movie. And it's a little hard to understand him because he's speaking as if he has a cleft palate. Again, part of the character. So he undergoes facial reconstruction and gets everything fixed, and they work on his speech. And so we watch this process happen, and he gets a regular job. But he notices, they have a lot of money at this job because he works at a shipyard and they pay in cash. And he realizes, I can do two things. I can get some money, and I can suck these characters back into it and set them up for the fall, because he is able to find, and they won't recognize him, obviously. So that's the plot of how this all plays through. But check out this cast. And again, this is the 80s. Mickey Rourke, Ellen Barkin, Morgan Freeman, Forrest Whitaker, Elizabeth McGovern, Scott Wilson, and Lance Henriksen. That is a killer. That's a killer cast for the 80s. Well, it's a killer cast for any time, but holy crap. And they're all at the top of their game. I mean, Morgan Freeman plays a police lieutenant who may be kind of shady. Forrest Whitaker plays a doctor who helps Johnny get the surgery. He's not the surgeon, but he helps him with the entire process. Ellen Barkin and Lance Henriksen are the pair of scumbag thieves who have absolutely no honor with other thieves or among themselves. They are electric. They are so good. And Mickey Rourke is absolutely at the top of his game too. So it's a drama because you watch the process of this guy going through this change of being treated like he's a monster all his life, except basically like one guy who is his friend Scott Wilson, played by Scott Wilson, and then gradually becoming a new person and not quite being able to let go of the past and his plan to get revenge on the bad guys, which are Lance Henriksen and Ellen Barkin. So it's a really good crime thriller. It's also a really good character study at the same time. Awesome flick, highly recommended. And like I said, hardly anybody remembers this movie. An even better movie, though. This came out a couple of years before that, and a lot of people remember this movie, Angel Heart. Angel Heart is a really odd movie because it's a crime thriller horror movie.
Yep.
You don't see a lot of those. An interesting thing, maybe I'll talk about that interesting thing later, maybe won't. But oddly enough, both of these films from Carol Co., which is a production company which is no longer around, both from the same company, so a weird little thing. So Angel Heart is about a PI, this is set in 1955, who is hired by a kind of a weird dude to track down a singer named Johnny Favorite. And it starts out in New York. He has to go up to Harlem to try to track him, and then the trail leads to New Orleans, and there are voodoo practitioners involved. And as he's trying to find Johnny Favorite, he learns more and more. This guy's name is Harry Angel, hence Angel Heart, the private detective. Again, played by Mickey Rourke. Sorry I didn't mention that, but should have been apparent because there's 2 Mickey Rourke movies, and this is the second one. So he's trying to track down Johnny Favorite. And the more he learns about him, the more he learns this guy was kind of a bad dude, like not a good person. And people don't want to talk about him. And slowly but surely, as he finds people who will tell him a little bit about it, they wind up dead. The local cops down in New Orleans are starting to see him as perhaps a suspect because, oh, that's interesting. You talk to this person. Look, a couple days later, they're dead. How did that happen? So this continues, and he's getting closer and closer to finding where Johnny Favorite is because he went to an asylum and then he was discharged, and he's still trying to track him down. He meets the daughter of Johnny Favorite, played by Lisa Bonet, which this is the reason the film got a lot of notoriety because in the Cosby Show, she was the eldest daughter, and here she is having like really graphic sex scenes in a movie that they had to cut 10 seconds out so they wouldn't get an X rating. So they had to cut 10 seconds out to get an R rating, and there's still a lot of graphic sex in it.
Yep.
There's more graphic murder in it. Like you don't actually see the murders until maybe a little later you see some, but you see the results and it's like...
The aftermath is enough.
Super gory. So if gore bothers you, and this is very realistic, like a guy shot himself in the eye and blew his brains out, and it's like, that really looks like that. That's horrific. So yeah, there's some really, really horrifying things in this. And as the movie progresses, it becomes less of a murder mystery and more of a horror movie as he gradually learns who exactly who the guy is that hired him. And he finally figures out where Johnny Favorite is. Excellent movie. This movie, to me, it's got a 7.3 rating on IMDb out of 10, which is really, really high. To me, that's vastly underrated. I mean, there aren't very many horror thriller movies, but off the top of my head, this is the best one. Because for one thing, there aren't many. Like you said, not a lot of movies coming out this year. But again, people at the top of their game. Mickey Rourke was excellent. Robert De Niro is the odd person who hires him. Charlotte Rampling is another character who pops up who's quite important. I mean, everybody in it is very good, but it's interesting. You see, oh, I recognize that person. I recognize that person. So every once in a while, someone will pop up that you recognize. It has an extremely haunting theme that plays through it, and it was actually a song done in the 30s, but they slowed it down and just did an instrumental version of it, and it's extremely weird and creepy. And yet,
it's not the Hallelujah chorus.
It isn't. And yet it's this love song that was done in the 30s, which allegedly in the plot of the film that Johnny Favorite, that was one of his big hits. So a great atmospheric thriller. It's basically like set up like a 50s detective story. And actually, because I've seen this movie several times, I don't know how many times I've watched it, probably 7 or 8. Last night I watched it in black and white. And like you had said, Rob, it doesn't quite have the same thing because it's a different film process, so you don't quite have the sharp contrast, and you can adjust it, but it's still not quite the same. But I played it in black and white to see if that would help, if that would change the movie at all. And it did to some extent. And I recommend watching it in color because that's how it was filmed. If they'd wanted it in black and white, they would have filmed it that way. But it does give you much more of a feel of you're watching like a B movie from the 50s, despite the stars, because it has that look, because it's not quite as crisp as like the top movies would have been then. But it really changes the impact of the blood, because now the blood is just black, but it's so shiny. It's really weird. It gives it a very different feel. So it doesn't change it to, oh, this is a movie I saw in the 50s, because you didn't have blood like that in movies in the 50s.
No.
But the acting, of course, is still there. If you've seen it a few times, watch it in black and white and see, how, because it does change the feel of the film. But and in both cases, Mickey Rourke is a character who goes on a very interesting character arc. So there's a lot that changes with the characters, in addition to, wow, let's follow the plot and see what happens next, because that's fun. And Mickey Rourke is excellent in both of these films. And I was so happy, and you've mentioned the movie The Wrestler before a few times, and yeah, I was so happy when he came back and did The Wrestler, because it's like, oh, we finally got this dude back, because he's magnificent in The Wrestler. This is one of the more underappreciated actors, and absolutely, Angel Heart, Johnny Handsome. He made a few others in the 80s, which maybe I'll review the other two in another show, another time, because I don't want to just mention them and not talk about them, because they're also terrific movies. So, but for now, go back to the past instead of Back to the Future and check out Angel Heart and Johnny Handsome, 2 excellent performances by Mickey Rourke and excellent movies.
You know what? That's actually a fairly good segue for the last movie we got today, because it's something that came out in the 80s, but they didn't make a movie of it until, well, okay, a couple years ago when they finished filming this, but it didn't come out until this week. And yes, I am referring to The New Mutants, because I layered up and went to a theater with a mask because I'm that dedicated. You
are dedicated.
And the other 2 people in the theater were similarly clad, and we sat more than 6 feet away from each other.
The other 2 people?
Well, I went to a very early show.
So you're serious? There are only 2 other people.
Wow. I'm hoping that more people will see this movie.
Oh, good.
Because I guess I'll start with my main criticisms of The New Mutants, which is a sub-book of the X-Men, if you don't know. Somehow you missed that. I don't get it. My main criticisms. I do not recall Roberto da Costa. They didn't use any of the character names, by the way. I'm going to, but they didn't in the movie. Roberto da Costa plays the character Sunspot. Well, actually, I'm sorry. He is Sunspot. I've forgotten who plays Roberto da Costa. I do not recall his power disintegrating his clothes. That was just I can see where it happens because he projects energy fields around his body, and okay, fine. They don't do that very much. It's not like a running gag or anything, but okay. Sam Guthrie, character Cannonball, he's not blonde. There's my criticisms for the movie. That's it. I mean, yeah, there's a couple little continuity things, like one of the characters gets a nosebleed, it disappears in the next scene and then reappears later. Oh, darn, a continuity error with a nosebleed. Wah. I suppose I'm really annoyed the most that this is the last movie done by Fox using a Marvel property, and now you finally get it right. You pricks. You could have been doing this all along. They took a New Mutant storyline from one of the books, the Demon Bear books. You're going to get that from the trailer. That's not a spoiler. It's also in the first 3 minutes of the movie. Not a spoiler. And they do change it just enough to explain why some of the characters who were in the books aren't here. And that's about it. They do a good job of it. Holy crap. Where were you guys who did this movie then? Now, I mean, it did start with a couple things that I did not go in expecting to like it. I expected it to be, oh God, another X-Men movie, which if you've listened to our shows before, when I've talked about these, I collected these books for 20 years. I know these characters. And when I see them on the big screen, it irks me because they've screwed them all up.
They 20 years.
This.
Such an amateur.
Yeah, bite me. There is one surprise character that I was not expecting. I'm not going to tell you who it is, except that they show up as a hand puppet.
Okay.
That sounds so bizarre. They will not be a hand puppet by the end of the movie, and you will go, "Oh, really? Oh, good," because it's actually that kind of a character. It does make sense. But like I said, I was going into it expecting it to be screwed up. And one of the first lines of the movie from Danny Moonstar, who is new to she's the character we follow through this. She's brought to an asylum at the beginning of the movie because her entire village has been destroyed by the Demon Bear, which we do kind of see in a bit. She's talking with Dr. Reyes, and she says, "How do you know I'm a mutant?" Because it came up, and I was expecting the answer, midichlorians. Because it's a Fox thing. They didn't. They explained it correctly. Yay for them.
Nice.
But basically, all of the characters are in this asylum because they all killed somebody. Now, not necessarily on purpose.
Right.
It's because their powers manifested themselves and things went wrong, because it happens. And they feel guilty about it. So
happened a lot in the books, yes.
Yeah. Now, what I was not expecting, even though I had read this, I was not expecting it to take on the direction it went. I had heard it was going to be a Marvel horror movie. That part I got, and I don't know. It's spooky and creepy in places. I don't know that I'd go full horror with it. But I also heard it was going to be kind of like The Breakfast Club. If The Breakfast Club was a horror movie with mutants in it. I'm like, really? And you know what? In places, it really was Breakfast Club-ish. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
That's a very good thing.
Because these are all teenage characters going through what
you
the
almost said it. You almost said it. You almost said they're all Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, didn't you? I could hear it.
Although Berto's anyway. Yeah, but it's a fun movie. It does have some. I'm not going to go full horror, but it does have some spooky bits to it. There's not a whole lot of characters in it, which is fine. You don't need them. There is a big bad in the movie besides the Demon Bear. We do not. I'm going to spoil this a bit. We do not see him, but he is set up for future movies, which to me means what they need to do is make this movie part of the MCU officially. None of the actual X-Men are in it. The X-Men themselves as a group are mentioned, but none of the individuals. So, yeah, there is no reason you can't just slot it in.
Wait, are you telling me they don't mention Jean Grey specifically?
They do not mention Jean Grey at all.
Are you sure that Fox made this movie? I thought that was contractual.
Contractually obligated to have her resurrect herself halfway through. She didn't. I guess if I had to pull another complaint out, but you kind of got this from the trailer. Dr. Reyes, who we meet at the beginning of the movie, played by Alice Braga. You kind of know she's going to. They don't come out and say, "Ooh, she's the bad guy," but I have yet to see her in a movie where she doesn't have that perma-bitch expression on her face.
I was going to say,
you know she's the bad guy.
If you saw the trailer and you know what she's played before, and obviously people can do different things, but yeah.
But she's got that look of, I'm the bad guy of this movie. Get over it.
Right.
And you go, oh, right, you're the bad guy. She's the bad guy.
Not much of a spoiler, yeah.
Not in the slightest. I think this could actually be brought in, and the actors have said they would love to do more with these characters. Let them. They did it right in this.
So you're telling me that Fox wraps up their X-Men legacy with an actual decent movie instead of the atrocity that was whatever they called the latest Dark Phoenix movie.
And no one's going to see this one because of COVID and all the other stuff that went along with it. It's going to I'm going to guess about a year from now, when people start watching it on streaming and maybe go buy a DVD or something, or see it at a friend's house, they're going to go, this was a good movie.
6 weeks, 8 weeks tops. It's really odd to me that they chose a theatrical release for this at this point.
Oh, yeah.
When they've been sitting on it for so long, and there's like not any pent up demand for it because they've trashed the reputation of the Fox movies, and everybody knows it's a Fox movie. So, and the fact that they reshot.
It does start with 20th Century Studios instead of 20th Century Fox. Which
is good, because it is the thing. So it just made no sense to me that it's like, really? You're going to theatrical release this when you didn't. It's like, why on earth didn't you just stream this? It's a really odd choice.
It would have made a lot more sense, although I still think this needs to be part of the MCU now.
Yeah, if it's decent, it should be part of the MCU, let alone if it's really good.
It's better than Bill and Ted. It is more than decent.
Well, there you go.
So
bring it.
Bonus points. See, I told you this was going to be a happy show.
It is a happy show.
We are back around to Marvel again. So I know I've been telling you stay home and watch a movie, and I just told you that I didn't. If you're going to go out, one, go see New Mutants and layer the crap up. It's going to be hot. It's going to be uncomfortable. Or you can do the smart thing, because I did the stupid thing this week. Do the smart thing. Stay home and watch a movie.
Captain, we're losing power in the warp engines.
I think we should be leaving now.
I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife.
And on that unusually harmonious bombshell, it is time to end.
I am very disappointed!
Man, we have a weird job.
It's shameful, but it's a living.
And like that, he's gone.
McConkey.